Hi, welcome to 10 Questions with me, Mark Shapiro. Thanks so much for taking the time to submit such thoughtful questions. I wish I had the time to answer all of them, but let's roll up our sleeves and dive in and get started right now.
Hey Mark, my name is Praveen. I'm from Markham, Ontario. Growing up, my favorite player was Carlos Delgado. Growing up, who was your favorite player and why?
Praveen, that's a good question. It could have been any number of players from the Oriole great teams. I think when I was a little kid, it was Brooks Robinson, who was, one of the greatest Baltimore Orioles ever. He won 16 consecutive Golden Gloves. And, our seats when I was just a fan growing up were right by third base. So my dad got them there just so we could watch, him play that position. And he was one of the greatest defensive players ever. But then as I started to play more and when I was an adolescent, it was definitely Eddie Murray, one of the greatest switch hitters ever. Just Steady Eddie was his nickname, never too up or too down, and just an absolute clutch, middle of the order switch hitter. And man, he was my favorite player just probably because of how great he was and how consistent he was. He was known as one of the most consistent players. Jacob, that's a good question because I am a routine guy. I think it's a joke for a lot of the people that have been around me for a lot of years, and a lot of the people that I've worked with in the past have either adapted to the same routines or rejected them heartily. But I'm always an early morning riser. I get up, and the older I get, it's a little bit later. It used to be extremely early, pre 5 a.m. Now it's pre 6 a.m. And definitely coffee is a big part of the very first part of my day. I've got a strong couple cups of coffee. And what I do is I go through my email just so that when I walk away from my email and go to the next step of my day, I can at least feel like I'm on top of my day and organized, and I can put my work aside for just a little while. And after I have my coffee and do my email, I work out, and every single day, 7 days a week, that's been a part of my, routine for a long period of time. I'm a big believer that physical health is a strong part of mental health, and that gives me the feeling that I can control some part of my day because there are so many things I cannot control. Boy, meals I like to cook. That's a different question, Jessica, pre and post COVID, because pre-COVID, not a big, meal cooker. I would, if I was really, and you gave me truth serum, and people that know me would laugh. I was a more utilitarian type of chef. I cooked a lot of egg whites with vegetables. I steamed a lot of broccoli. That's again a point of humor for most people that know me, as I'm a huge broccoli guy. But I will say that, during COVID, I have gotten more grilling than anything else, but I've grilled a ton of seafood, chicken, burgers, everything. And I've become quite a barbecue master.
My question for you is, outside of baseball, what are some interests and hobbies that you have?
Frankie, it's a good question. I always say that, I don't have many hobbies. And, I'm just not that guy. In order to be able to balance the craziness and kind of how all-consuming this job is and have a family, it's really hard, to have a very, serious hobby. So it's not like fishing, skiing, anything like that. I do love music, love going to live music when I can. All different ranges. I probably lean towards more of a classic rock and, country roots rock, type of genre. But, I'll listen to occasional classic hip hop and a bunch of different other music as well. My job and my family, are my life, and there's not a lot of room for a serious hobby besides them. Tara, I'd have to say, the inspiration for working in baseball came from the fact that baseball was part of the fabric of my childhood. It was part of the bond from me to my dad. It was part of the bond from me to my siblings. it was just always a part of growing up for me. We grew up going to Oriole games as fans. And then crazily enough, somewhere along the line when I was, an adolescent, my dad was just a lawyer, a business lawyer in Baltimore, Maryland, and was asked to help one of the great Baltimore Orioles, Brooks Robinson, out of bankruptcy. My dad helped him out with a business challenge. And then from there, I ended up, representing almost all the Orioles. And so the guys I was cheering for and kind of hanging over the railing, trying to get their autograph, started to be in my house, having dinner in my house. Cal Ripken Jr. and Eddie Murray and, a lot of Hall of Famers. And so, the bond with my dad would be one. My love of the game came from my dad's love of the game, playing it stickball, wiffle ball, playing catch, taking grounders in the street. And then inspired by getting to know the players that I cheered for and rooted for. J-Dream 82, favorite moment as president of the Blue Jays. It's hard not to think about Edwin Encarnacion's walk-off, against the Orioles in the playoffs in 2016. There were a lot of great moments the year before I got here in 2015, but that moment was probably the closest thing to those moments. And it really is about winning. But so many other things so many other memories are cool to me. And I think, seeing our players last year clinch the division and knowing that they did it, or clinch the playoff spot, but knowing that they did it in Buffalo with no fans there, it just seemed like so fitting, as a tribute to their resilience, their belief in each other, their overcoming adversity and challenges, and so many of the things I think make them special, help us believe in them and demonstrate how much they believe in each other. So those two moments, the clinching of the playoff spot last year in Buffalo and Edwin Encarnacion's walk-off in 2016 in the wild card game, like those two things have to be the highlights for me. That's a great question, because I would say the same attributes and traits and characteristics would make a high performer, a great performer, whether he or she is a player or he or she is an executive, and so, or a front office talent. So I think passionate, hardworking, discipline, like those things are all kind of just baselines for me. Those are things that like everybody has. The two things that, kind of are separators for me are a high level of accountability and ownership. So a player or a person that doesn't make excuses, but takes ownership and controls what they can control in their daily routine, in their careers, no matter what happens. And we're living, one opportunity for that right now, and finds a way to grow, learn, and develop, despite the circumstances. And that leads naturally into the resilience, determination, perseverance piece. I think a lot about how people react to challenges and adversity. And the greatest performers, have the ability to, or the mindset to look at those as opportunities to get better, instead of, situations and circumstances that reveal flaws and things they want to avoid and stay away from. So I think that high level of accountability, accepting that, knowing that it's a given someone has talent, it's a given they're passionate, it's a given they're hardworking and disciplined, and the separators being a high level of ownership, accountability, and the resilience and perseverance and grit, would probably be the separators for me.
Hi, Mark. My question is in two parts. First, as an organizational philosophy, how do you feel about the recent trend to allow starting pitchers to pitch only twice to the other team's batting order? Second, what is your opinion about the addition of rule changes that limit the amount of infield shifting allowed in the game? Thank you.
Brian, those are good questions. They're things that we think about and talk about a lot on the competition committee. I think two things to kind of take away, rather than commenting directly on those two potential rule changes that are my reaction when I hear that question. One is, as a game, I believe that we, the players, the executives or MLB, the owners, and the fans all of us need to be more open-minded to change. We need to think about how to improve the game, how to make the game more enjoyable to watch, more attractive to other generations, more attractive to the reality of a shorter attention span world, and a much more demanding, fragmented, landscape for sports, entertainment, and media. Which means I really believe not that we need to have a shorter game necessarily, but that we need to increase the pace of action or to lessen the dead time between balls and play. So in general, I would say we need to be open-minded. We need to be sure we test, very carefully and very clearly. And then we need to not be afraid to make a mistake. If we put a rule in and it doesn't work out, no problem, we can change it. We've been reluctant to put anything in to play unless it's perfect in the past, whereas the other major league sports, are often much more willing to kind of try rules out and then change them and adapt from there. Alex, my favorite thing about Canada, I would have to say the people and, the values and the culture. It struck me when I came here, when we came here, that we were coming to a more open-minded, progressive, compassionate, diverse, culture, particularly where we were going to live in Toronto. And it has met or exceeded my expectations in every way. It's challenged me to ensure that I am as open-minded and as progressive as I thought I was before I came here, particularly with what's transpired in the last couple of years. But it's been really inspirational for me to think about just how open-minded and how compassionate and how diverse a place can be. And, it's a better place to live than a lot of the other places I've lived, and I'm proud to be here. Cake or pie? Wow, that's a tough one. I'm not sure either one kind of strike at the core for me. I'm an ice cream guy, to be honest with you. So when I think about like my kryptonite, pizza, ice cream, and chocolate chip cookies are kind of the big three for me. It's not hard for me to come up with that. If you had to ask me about, cake or pie, I'd probably lean towards, a good pie with some ice cream, with some vanilla ice cream on it. Thanks again for all those great, thoughtful questions. It was great to be able to spend some time with you. Really excited about what lies ahead for our team, mostly for you, our fans, and can't wait for you to watch, in any format this year, but really excited for that day when we can all watch together at Rogers Center. So stay well, stay warm, and thanks again.